So, how did this week's challenge go for you guys? Do you guys feel positive about the last week? Was it difficult for you guys to do the challenges?
I felt like it was good because I got to reconnect from people from my high school that I haven't talked to in a long time. And those were the people that I was really hesitant to reach out to for a while. So it was good to catch up with them. And some of them I did get to talk to some of them about real estate and what I'm doing now, but some of them, it was just more personal. So it was just good to catch up with them in general.
And did you do the catching up? Did you actually call them or did you do text messages or?
Some of them I didn't have the numbers, so I did text them or I reached out through social media.
Mhm.
But I did get a call, like three people that I did have their number and I was able to call.
Cool. And did it feel awkward reaching out to them?
Yeah, it kind of did. Well, some people more than others because some people I was more closer to than others, and I would talk to them more. So there was some people that it was really natural for me to just talk to them again, be like, "Oh, how have you been? Like, I haven't talked to you in so long." And some of them, it felt like a little bit more forced to talk to them, but I felt like it was a good experience overall.
Cool. I'm glad. What about someone else? How did the phone calls go for Kyle?
Yeah,
yes.
I would love to share. So I was a little bit disappointed in my volume of phone calls. I called like 6 people, kind of had a busy week, but I did do a lot of what Sebastian did in terms of reaching out to friends on social media that I maybe don't have their phone number and just trying to get back into their lives in an organic way. Because when I've been calling people before, I felt really awkward, especially talking about anything real estate. And so just calling people and talking to them about any part of their life, it was really good to like break down that barrier of like, I don't need to just call, just talking about it. I'm there to like build a connection with them. And that's what these calls are really about.
Yeah, I love that. And so so we are in an industry where our job is to build connections with people, right? It just stay connected with our friends and our family and meet new people and just be there when they're ready to do a transaction. So I love that. Kyle, are you familiar with the Ford script?
I think so. I think it's like the first one they show us.
Yeah, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. That's a really good script to talk to people because a lot of times when it comes to their career and you ask them, oh, so how is the job going or where are you working or along those lines, usually they'll reciprocate that question and ask how things are going with you, and that's a natural way to bring in real estate. And so it doesn't have to be just like, oh, hey, I'm calling because of real estate. So I like that script for that reason. So Kyle, were you able to identify anyone that might have a real estate need in the future through the calls that you made?
It's a fantastic question. I would say yes.
Okay, cool. So I love that because had you not made the calls, then you wouldn't have made that potential future business, right?
Yeah.
What about, go ahead.
I appreciate you asking that question because in my mind, it wasn't super successful because it wasn't like quick or they're not quickly looking, but I was able to find out when their timeline would be in the future. So even if it didn't lead to direct business, just realizing that root has been planted and hopefully it'll grow.
Absolutely. And even if they're, let's say they're going to do business a year from now, by staying in touch with them and continuing to build that relationship, you're also building the opportunity for them to send you referrals, right? Because just because they haven't worked with you yet doesn't mean that they don't trust you. And if they find out that their neighbor or coworker or someone is wanting to do real estate, they can definitely send you a referral. But I love that acknowledgement that you planted that seed, even though it felt like maybe the calls weren't quite successful. Sebastian, what about you? On your calls, were you able to identify any potential future business?
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention that right now as well. One of my friends that I talked to, he's currently working doing AC systems, I believe. If I
Mhm.
recall right, and he told me that he wanted to wait for his girlfriend to graduate in like about a year. So his timeline is about a year. And I had other friends that were in college that were also like 2 years out, one or two that they were wanting to finish college and get a job and save up for a while. I also had two friends that are twins and they both work as firefighters. So they've been working for a while now and they wanted to rent. So I kind of had to talk to them a little bit about the benefits of home ownership versus renting. So I'm not sure if they will end up wanting to buy it in the future, but I hope they definitely will.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. He used to be my neighbor. He was just a kid when he was my neighbor, but he posted on Facebook yesterday that he can't wait till December when he gets to buy a house. And his stepmom is a real estate agent, so she's pretty much got him locked down. But it just kind of reiterated in my mind, I know that he started a new job a few months ago. And so that should have triggered me to pay more attention to him, because those types of things will, that's when people buy houses. Like, they get a new job, they're making more money, then they think about buying a house, graduating from college. Like, those things we need to be extra diligent of when we're like on social media, we're talking to people and hearing things, because those are clues, right? And if we can be like detectives and pick up on the clues, then that way we can just make sure we're more visible when the time comes.
Yes.
Awesome. Who else had their calls that they want to talk about?
Yeah, I also got a chance to connect with some, friends and people that I used to go to college with. And it was nice kind of just, I posted on all of my social media, like, hey, I've gotten my real estate license. Let's connect if you want to, buy, lease, sell real estate, or if you just want to have a conversation. And with the people that were congratulating me, I would message them and say, hey, thank you so much for the congratulations. And we got into a couple of really good conversations where they were like, yeah, I think I'm going to be looking for a place in the next, few months here or so. So I'll keep you in mind. So it was good to hear from them. And everyone was, for the most part, very friendly and congratulatory.
That's great. Did you guys hear what Jennifer did in there? She made the post, and when they said congratulations, she didn't just let it stop there, right? She carried that conversation further, which then identified some potential business for her. And now, Jennifer, you just need to come up with a plan to stay in touch with them and stay in front of them and show that you're there to help them. Great.
Definitely.
Do you think if we had not done this challenge, do you think that you would have still reached out to those same people this week?
I think maybe because I was so excited to just finally pass. I just wanted to let the world know. And then I guess those conversations kind of came out about organically. But definitely the challenge was a good motivator, just a little kick in the butt to get it going.
Yeah, great. Who else did their calls?
I did the challenge on the 10 people that I least want to call in addition to my regular calls. And of the 10, 8 just ignored. You could tell how fast it went to voicemail, but 2 picked up. And one of the 2 actually is somebody who stood me up on an appointment about 4 months ago.
Oh.
She picked up and we had a very lengthy conversation about how she was procrastinating because she was concerned about pre-approval. And I just said, there's only one way you're going to find out. And that's by talking with a loan agent, loan broker, loan banker. And she said, okay. And then we agreed and I gave her 3 references. So that was a huge positive, kind of getting her back in the right mode, because when she stood me up at the office, takes a lot to annoy me, but that annoyed me a little bit. It was on a Sunday afternoon that I carved out especially for her. So
Definitely, our time is valuable, right? We don't want to be stood up. But I love that even though it was 4 months later, you still chose her as one of the people to reach out. And because you could have just been like, I'm done with that person, right? They stood me up. They're not serious. They're not motivated. But you reached out, and now potential future business from that. As far as the 8 people that ignored you, don't take that personally, because that could have been they were at work or they were at the doctor's or whatever, and just weren't able to, to answer the call. But even at
these 8, I have a pretty good idea if I know them, but I never give up. That's probably why they hit ignore.
it's Ross again.
So, Lori,
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of add and let Ross know that instead of giving 3 references and letting them find them, or hoping that they is setting up a meeting with you and the lender with that person, because then she might feel a little bit better with you next to her, and it's kind of you helping set the appointment and move forward. Because a lot of times they won't call.
Yeah, no, I did think about that. She's a little tentative, so I didn't want to be too aggressive about it. But yeah, I did think about that, Ernie. Actually, I think we talked about that before, actually, in one of the morning calls. That was sitting. That kind of was in the back of my mind when I was talking to her.
Her confidence, and she knows you, so she might feel better sitting down with them with you next to her. You know what I'm saying? So.
I think that is a great idea. And I would say, Ross, when you follow up with her, if she hasn't done that, offer that. I mean, that's an extra service that you offer. And if she doesn't take you up on it, at least she knows that you offered to do it. And that speaks volumes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they don't want us in their business when they're talking numbers, but at the same time, sometimes they don't care and they would actually really like to have that extra support. What I wanted to say really quick. So, part of our goal is to stay top of mind with people, right? So what happens when we call somebody and they hit ignore and don't take our call? Are we still putting ourselves in front of them in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's still reminding them, hey, I'm Ross, I'm a real estate agent, I'm here if you need me. So we need to, even when that feels like maybe a negative, we still need to see the positive in, something like that happening, right?
And I do time it for any of you that might be thinking about this. I have neighborhood nurturers, those type of things. So I tend to like to time my calls with those folks at right within a day or two of when the email went out. So they see the email, then they hear my voice.
That's good strategy.
Yeah. And I was going to say, yesterday I had 4 or 5 calls that went to voicemail, and instead of leaving a voicemail, I hung up and then texted them saying, hey, just called you. So sorry I missed you. Give me a call back. If not, I'll touch back with you later on. Just kind of doing it that way. Say, hey, sorry, missed your call, but a follow-up text. Hey, just called you. But you must be busy. I'll give me a call if you have a chance, or I'll get back to you if you don't. Type deal. So it solidifies the call.
Yeah, I heard a MAPS coach say one time that when we call and we leave a message, whether it's text or an actual voicemail, we don't want to put pressure on them to call us back. And so, just like Ernie said, hey, I missed your call. If you have a chance, call me back. But if not, I'll just catch up with you another time. And that kind of relieves the pressure, but still puts, because you don't want them to be like, oh man, I have to call back, and all that. Yeah, so great idea. And I typically don't leave voicemail either, because I just feel like people don't really listen to their voicemail as much. And so I'll usually follow up with a text message. Those don't always get responded to either, but
I get responses back more when I don't. Like they just see that I called, because it shows that missed call by Ernie Jackson. And if they want to talk to me, they'll call me back, say, hey, what do you want?
Uh-huh.
You know, so kind of leave that doubt in their mind too.
That's also strategy. That's
Yeah.
also strategy. Yeah. Yeah. Leave them curious.
Yeah,
Lori,
but,
just a
so
question. Oh, go ahead.
but go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, because this came up on a call a couple weeks ago, and I'm curious for you what you would write in a text as your follow-up. Just in terms of not putting the pressure on the other person, but what has worked for you?
You just want to keep it casual. I mean, I guess it depends on why you're calling, but if it's just one of your SOI calls, you can make it, you can really put whatever you want in there, but I would just say, hey, I just called. I just wanted to see how things are going. If you have a chance, call me back. If not, we'll just catch up whenever. Or I'll call you back and I wouldn't say I'll call you back in a couple months, but what you say doesn't really matter within a certain realm. What were you going to say, Ernie?
We do a lot of the NLP training, neurological linguistic personalities and stuff. And the guy that was doing the training, Stephen Jacks, he said, always leave it with, if I don't hear from you, I'll contact you later, or I'll try back again some other time, something like that. That's not real pressuring, but always like or I'll circle back with you later. But always leaving with that. If I don't hear from you, I'll get a hold of you later on or something, but always, if I don't hear from you, I'll check back with you later or something, whatever, but always ending with that. So,
Yeah.
Because it's leaving that open line for conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Does that help, Krista?
Yeah, I just kind of stuck on this one who, it's a volleyball mom that our girls used to play together like 5 years ago. And she responded in text. She was getting on a plane and she's like, I'm so sorry I missed you. I'll call you back. And then I called her back a week later just to follow up. I responded to the text first and then I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll reach out again. I called and she sent me to voicemail. And, I just don't want to keep pestering, but it's just those situations of like, how do you get them on the phone?
You're it.
Yeah.
I mean, just keep it lighthearted and said, like I do that sometimes. Hey, just try back with you, tag you're it, and just leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And what I think is key here is really goes to our mindset is we can't feel like we're bothering them. Because legitimately she was getting on a plane and then when she sent you to voicemail, maybe she was in conversation with her boss or maybe she was at the doctor's, or, we can't make up the reasons why they didn't answer the phone. And when we think, oh, hey, we're bothering them, that's not the case at all, and maybe, I don't know the relationship you had with her and maybe you just invite her for coffee or something, take it that extra little step since now it's getting weird about you reaching out, more than once. But yeah, just don't get in your head and let that stop you from reaching out to her. Would you guys agree with that? Do you guys struggle with when somebody doesn't answer after a couple of times, maybe not wanting to reach out to them again?
Sometimes, but I had a really good situation where somebody didn't return who wanted me to call them. This wasn't like they didn't want me to. And I left over a period of about 2 months, 5 messages, just dead air. And then after the 5th one, she texted me and said, I'm working on my pre-approval stuff. I've just been busy. So if I would have just given up, I don't know if that would have happened or not, because, I didn't want to view it as, didn't want to bug her, but she was the one who said, call me. So
yeah,
kind of awkward. Yeah.
But I'm sure, and I've heard clients say this, I'm sure she appreciates that you continued to follow up with her and didn't give up on her. One of my very first transactions was somebody that I met them. They were ready to sell. The only thing they needed to do was like paint their hallway. Now, let me ask you, how long does it take to paint a hallway? It doesn't take very long, right? And I followed up with them, I think, for like 8 months. And finally I was done with the phone calls. I was done with the text message. I drove over to their house and knocked on their door. Now I had met them at an open house at their house. And I was like, well, whatever, I'm just gonna go knock on their door. And they acknowledged they got every one of my messages and they just weren't ready. And just so happens when I showed up on their door, I had them listed like 2 weeks later. And so, yeah, they didn't respond back at all, but that had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the fact that they didn't have anything to say to me because they just weren't ready yet.
And interesting, Lori, mine was very similar. That was my first transaction. And before I made the 5th call, I thought, well, what would I have done in my previous industry? And I thought, call again. So I did. And I thought, either she's really going to be angry now or she'll call me back. And then I got the text saying, we've just been busy with pre-approval and other stuff. And I thought, wow, if I didn't make that call, maybe if another agent called, maybe I would have lost it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, not specific numbers, but like how much commission did you make off of that sale? So
it was good.
Yeah. And so making that phone call and feeling a little bit uncomfortable is worth it when you think about what the payoff could be. But also, because I don't like to strictly think about things as, well, that's money in my pocket, because that just kind of makes me feel a little bit selfish, even though that's why I do this job, right? But I know that I'm a really good agent, and I know that I take care of my clients to the best ability that I can. And I also know that not every agent out there does that, right? And so by continuing to follow up and earning their business, I also know that I help them to have a good experience with a good agent. Now, am I the best agent out there? Probably not, but I'm a good agent, right? And so by continuing to follow up and not letting her get connected with somebody who happened to be there because I didn't want to call that 5th time, we're also doing them that service as well.
Jodi talks about, and she has talked about, what, eight calls before you even think about giving up. And then I wanted to add also in that same seminar with the NLP, one of the questions in the forum was, what do you do, or what happens particularly when somebody ghosts you, and it's happened to where I was working with somebody, they were motivated, all of a sudden they just disappeared. And he said, you leave them a message saying, hey, I'm concerned I dropped the ball. So you call them up and you leave a message and say, hey, I was really excited. Things were going good, but I'm concerned I dropped the ball. Please give me a call back and let me know, let me know what's going on. And that kind of puts the back in the situation, and then they kind of want to call you back. So just flat out, hey, I'm concerned I screwed up. I'm concerned I dropped the ball. Give me a call back and let me know if something happened or if I did something.
Yeah. And I would say a high number of times when somebody ghosts you, it probably doesn't even have anything to do with you.
It's them.
Yeah, something happened in their life, or maybe they just got scared. I mean, buying a house is a big decision. And we tend to take it personally. But Ernie's suggestion is right on. I mean, you're bringing that there, and that gives them a chance to respond back and say, well, no, it wasn't you. It was this, because usually if it is you, they'll usually tell you. I mean, I don't know. So I guess some people will tell you and some won't, but
Ernie, you're right on the number, at least outside of the real estate world, you're right on the number of calls. It's 8. There's been a lot of studies done on that. And the one that I just talked to while we're doing that 10 challenge, she ghosted me, and that was all about the pre-approval process. She just was a little worried about it.
Something else is, so it's really common for us to say, okay, well, the next step is we need to get you pre-approved. Here's a list of lenders, or I'm going to have my lender call you, whichever it might be. Pre-approval can be really scary for some buyers, right? There's all sorts of reasons that can be scary and overwhelming, and they've got to get all their tax stuff together, and maybe they don't know where it's at, and all the different things, right? And one of the ways that we can help our clients is to explain what the pre-approval process is. And so it takes away some of that unknown for them. So, So what'll happen, the next step is the pre-approval process. What'll happen is you'll, speak with the lender. He's just going to ask you a few questions. He might ask you for some paperwork, and then he'll be able to tell you how much house you qualify for. And then we can do the fun part and go look at homes, right? So it kind of just gives them a little glimpse into, okay, I can talk to somebody. They're going to ask me a couple of questions. Okay, I can answer some questions. They might need some paperwork. Okay, let's see what they need. And it just kind of takes some of that overwhelm away from it. So that's a good suggestion to try too when you have somebody that knows that's the next step but aren't taking it.
Pre-approval is is part of the exciting process of buying a house. This is part of the exciting process.
Yep. It's not as hard as people think. I mean, it's not as bad as I got pre-qualified here recently. It's not as bad as some people think it is, but
You know what else I use all the time is one thing that I found is most people that I do with my lenders find out they're a lot closer than they think they are to buying a house. And they all like, oh really? Yeah, oh, like, so it throws that exciting idea out there that, wow, maybe if I do talk to this guy, I will qualify. So
yeah, well, think about it. There's a lot of people who want to buy a house, right? And they're qualified to do it, but they just don't realize that they're qualified, or they're like almost qualified. And the difference between them actually buying a house and not buying a house is talking to that lender, right? Like talking to us too, but it's just if a 15-minute phone call with a lender can be the difference between you eventually owning a house and not owning a house. Like, take that step, right? And that's what we need to convey to our buyers.
yeah,
It's like it's their limiting belief.
Correct.
Like hers was, she owns a business, and we all know the ups and downs of the business world. So then you get that in your head and you're like, oh, they're not going to pre-qualify, but you have no idea till you actually talk to them.
Yeah.
My neighbor down the street qualified business. I mean, as far as the money's coming in and where his business stands, so everybody's different. And when you talk to somebody that knows the scenarios and knows the ins and outs and different loans and stuff, then they can work to where they make it work for you. So
Yeah. I mean, the lender holds all the answers, right? Because a lot of times there's so many unknowns, like, well, I don't know if I'll qualify, or I don't know, what my payments will be, or I don't know, what I can afford. Well, shoot, go talk to that lender and then you'll know those things, right? Yeah.
I had a friend's mom sit there and say, oh no, you can't trust lenders. And I'm like, how does that make sense? I go, they're not trying to take your money, they're trying to lend you money. It's like, how does that make sense?
Well, and you'll hear that about real estate agents too. You can't help, they're salespeople. You can't trust salespeople.
Yeah.
But yeah. What about appointments? How many of you guys were able to set an actual appointment this week? I see a few hands go up.
Real appointment or practice appointment?
Oh, either. So tell me about your
practice.
Emily, you did 3 practice appointments?
I set 3. I'm actually going to leave a few minutes early from this because it's my first one is at 1:15 today. So
awesome. I love that. Are they buyer or seller appointments?
I've decided to do seller on all of them. Number one, I've done quite a few buyer consultations, but also that's about the mindset. I mean, we want listings, right? So I'm just gonna start focusing on the listings, and that'll be what's foremost in the minds of the people that I practice with as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
But the reason I set so many is because, as Jodi was saying, the group that's doing this, that has started doing this practice thing, where if you don't have a legit one, you need to do a practice one, they're noticing that they're getting real business out of the practice ones. And so I kind of honed in on that little tidbit, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go do as many practice ones as I can with the hope that they're going to create some real ones.
Yeah. How did the conversation go when you asked them to do a practice appointment with you?
The way I presented it was that would they please do me a favor and help me practice my presentation, that business is slow in the real estate market right now, and we're just really not there's just not a lot of houses moving. So I feel like I'm getting rusty, that I'm not getting to do it as often. And so now I'm starting to feel nervous when I do have to do it, and kind of choppy, and would they be willing to let me use them as a guinea pig and practice on them?
And they were happy to help?
Oh yeah, they were thrilled to help. They were, oh, I'd just love to do that for you. And I say, we could meet in a coffee shop. I'll buy you your favorite drink, 30 minutes of your time, because I don't want my presentation to be longer than that anyway. And then I also, like, depending on who they were, I haven't seen you in a while. It'd be great to also catch up with you and see what's going on with you as well.
Yeah, that's great. And that's so true what you just said. The group that's been doing this, they are getting real appointments from the practice appointments. And whether you got business from it or not, it's still increasing your confidence and your skill level and all of those things. Who else asked for a practice appointment this week?
I do. I have one practice appointment with my friend for next Monday.
Awesome. And how did that go when you asked them to help you do a practice appointment?
Well, I know her for many years, and I just asked her, can you help me? And she said, what? Well, I need to practice how to talk to the sellers. And she told me, well, yes, why not? Just set an appointment and we can talk.
That's great. That's great. My very first showing was with a practice client. And that client called me, as my sister, but she called me on the phone and acted like a buyer who saw a house and wanted to go see it. And we went through the whole steps, and it really does help build up your confidence with the practice appointments. What about?
Sorry. And I also had an appointment today with the buyer here in the office.
Did you have it already, or it's this afternoon?
No, for today at 6 p.m.
Awesome. And where'd you find that buyer?
I'll send him one of my business cards by text, and his wife contacted me just today saying that they're ready to buy, and they want me to make an appointment as soon as with the lender, any lender, so they can come and stop by my office.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I did it.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about somebody else?
I actually had a buyer appointment that I set and conducted. And this was unique. I haven't had this happen before. I was out showing properties to another buyer, and him and his wife walked up and started asking questions about the house. And I just said, do you have a real estate agent? They said, no. I said, okay, we're going to sit down together and talk, and I can help you out. And we planned about 30 minutes, but we met for about an hour and a half, and then we're scheduled to go out and see some houses tomorrow. So that went really well. But that was a first for me. I haven't had anybody walk up and when I'm showing a house, and they thought it was my listing. So that really helped out.
And so it would have been really easy for Ross to take them and say, okay, let's set up an appointment and I'll show you this house that that we're here. Or if he was done with his other client, let me take a minute and I'll just show you this house, right? But that's not the approach he took. He actually brought them in and showed them how valuable it is to work with him as a real estate agent, in addition to what does it look like to buy a house. And now he's showing them multiple houses. That's great. I love that. I've had that happen to me a couple of times. So
yeah, and it was the only downside, and it wasn't really a downside, is this will be their third house. I mean, so they own a couple houses, and they wanted to meet at their house instead of Keller Williams, and so we met there, and they had two little ones, so there was parts of the meeting that were a total circus. But since I have 3 grown kids and a grandchild, I was able to navigate it okay.
Yeah, yeah. I will just say be careful about, especially a buyer, be careful about meeting in their house if you don't know them. Just safety, always want to be safety conscious. But yeah, it's better if the little ones aren't there, but sometimes the circus is their life. So, I definitely I definitely know that. Well, cool. I'm glad that happened. How do you guys feel about actually asking for appointments? Do you guys have problems or like thoughts?
I had a neighbor. I had a neighbor.
So I didn't catch.
I'm
who
sorry.
was-
I had a neighbor who recently purchased a house out of state, and we have been kind of like talking about their long-term plan of where they would be situated. Or I'm sorry, my trash truck is going by as I'm talking. So yesterday I went and met with him to see, where they were. He's kind of been flying back and forth, and I knocked on his door yesterday to see how they're doing, hoping to set an appointment. I'm really bummed because like I said, I've kind of been nurturing this relationship for almost 7 months, 8 months, and they don't like where they move. So now they're coming back and not selling their house. And I was like, no.
Oh,
It was really happy. I love them as neighbors, but I was really, they've been spending a lot of time in their new place. And I was thinking, oh, they're going to settle there. I guess I anticipated before the actual, I shouldn't have anticipated. And so I was really excited. And, like I said, I got really out of my comfort zone when I knocked on the door to say like, hey guys, let's set up an appointment. And he's like, I don't think we like the heat. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I had to backtrack a little yesterday, which was a little disappointing, but doesn't mean it's, their final decision.
yeah, exactly. Well, I love the words that you said. You got out of your comfort zone and went and knocked on their door. And so that's how we be successful in this business. Pretty much in anything in life is to step out of our comfort zone, right? And like you said, something made them want to move in the first place. And so if that place didn't work out, that doesn't mean that a year or two, they might not want to try to move somewhere else. And so, yeah, definitely just keep nurturing that. And then they see your value, and then they can also send you referrals as well. So, and the positive is you get to keep your great neighbor. Kyle, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did have my hand up. What was the initial question again about setting appointments?
I do not remember. Basically, how did it go? Or
Oh yeah, so I had an interesting listing appointment. The buyer really wants his house sold and he wants me to sell it. I kind of lacked, there was a bit of a hiccup and I didn't get the paper signed, but I have a meeting on Saturday with him to get those papers signed. So I was glad that I followed up the next day and instantly followed up on my mistake. And
yeah,
I'm excited for things to transact from that or move.
that's awesome. Where did you say you met him at?
It's a great story. I was buying golf balls off Facebook Marketplace in a mobile manufactured home. And I was driving through the park. I saw his flyer for sale by owner. And so I called him from the flyer, and he's really been struggling to sell his home. And he didn't know that an agent could even help him with selling his home because it's in a manufactured park and it's like a trailer. So just been trying to break through that mental mindset of the seller because he didn't even know that he could be helped by us.
Yeah. Now, did you guys catch? Imagine that you're this seller and you're trying to sell your home and you're frustrated because it's not selling. You're not being successful in the for sale by owner, and you didn't even know that a real estate agent could help you. And then here comes Kyle just calling out of the blue. Now, how many of you guys have seen or heard about for sale by owners, and your mindset is, you know what? They've got 10 other agents calling them. They don't want to work with an agent. They're going to be mad if I call them, and all of that. Right? Those are common thoughts that we have when we think about calling for sale by owner. And Kyle's experience was completely different because this guy didn't even know that Kyle could help him until Kyle had that conversation with them. And so I think what's key for us to remember, and this is in everything, is that we can't always believe what we tell ourselves. Because we are really, really good as humans at making things up and then believing those things. And so next time you're hesitant to like pick up the phone and call like a for sale by owner or anybody else, like think about some of the stories that you're hearing from your other agents. And we really do help people. Like we have this mindset a lot of times about we're bothering them or we're annoying them or whatever, but when somebody needs help, they need help, and we're the best person to help them, right? All right, cool. Anything else you guys want to say about like this last week about making the phone calls or doing the, doing the appointments? Anything else you guys want to share?
So
I feel like for
I
me-
missed from last week. I guess it was to call 10 people that you didn't.
10 people that you were hesitant to call.
At least the beginning of the course. Last time I did that, and I periodically look at that and do. When I first did that, it was, I'd say the majority of the calls were probably easier than the other ones. Because they were either more qualified people or just somebody that you just have that limited belief of that mindset of, oh, they're not going to want to talk to me. But once you step out and do it and dial it and make the call, it usually comes out to be the easiest. Just like when I coached all my kids and stuff, it's like the one practice that you don't feel like going to is the one that you probably should have been to, because you're going to miss out on the most important thing that you need to learn.
Yeah.
So it's like you step out and just put one foot in front of the other and dial the phone and see what happens. I mean, it's a 50-50 chance, and it usually turns out to be a lot better.
And
Yeah.
kind of goes along with this is one of the best trainers I ever had was my first trainer when I went into advertising a very, very long time ago. And she said, do that thing you're most uncomfortable with. Once you do that, you find out most of the time it's not as scary as you thought. And most of the time you get very good results. It's kind of like what Ernie said, that one practice you miss is the one that was the most important. Same thing with the phone call.
Yeah. And in our case, going back to like, how much money we make in commission, it's like that one phone call you don't make is the one that could earn you, $10,000 or $20,000. Like that's a lot of money, right?
Well, if you don't do it, somebody else is.
Yeah.
Bottom
Yeah,
line,
definitely.
if you don't do it, somebody else is going to. They're going to get the business.
Yeah, because we're not convincing anybody to buy or sell. They have that need or that desire. Like that's their goal. We're just making sure we're the one that's there to help them. And if they tell us no, all that is them letting us know, hey, I'm not in the mood to buy or sell right now, right? That's not rejection. That's them sharing what their position is. And so we, again, get hung up on the fear of rejection when we talk about the fear of making the calls. But if we just can remember that it's not them rejecting us, even if somebody hangs up or yells at us, that's still not them rejecting us. Like that's their own issues, right? They're projecting them onto us, but that's okay, because we can just find the next one that's not going to, if somebody yells at me or hangs up at me, my mindset wants to be, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that you're not the type of person that I want to work with, right? And thank you for letting me know that right up front before I spend a bunch of my time with you. Because not all clients are worth working for. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, so what I want to do really quick is I want to do just like 5 minutes of role play. And I think I'm going to divide you. I'm going to send you guys to groups. Let me see. I got two. Wait. Okay, perfect. We have an even amount, unless somebody just dropped out. I'm gonna split you guys into groups. I have a particular script, so let me share that really quick. Share the screen. This is a script that came from an ISA agent. And so go ahead and take a photo of it, because when we go into the breakout groups, I won't be able to, I don't think I can still share this So everybody take a photo of it. And what I want you guys to practice for 5 minutes is just this. And this is designed to ask for the appointment. And so obviously, depending on the situation, some of the, some of the questions might be a little bit different, whether we're working with a buyer or a seller. But this would be like, after we're talking to somebody, we know that they have a desire, and now we're just going to ask for the appointment. Are you guys good with that? And then as soon as we get done role playing, I'm going to tell you guys what the challenge is for next week. So if you end up without somebody in your room, or Emily and you need to leave earlier, just come back and I'll be here in the main room. Okay, here we go. No, it doesn't give me room 5 as an option anymore for some reason. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do the script with me.
Hi, Lori. I'm so glad that you're interested in purchasing and selling your home. One of our next steps would be to meet together and discuss, the next few steps is go over your motivation and price, interview each other to make sure that we're a good fit to work well together. And if everything's good, we will sign the paperwork and activate the next steps. Do you have any questions?
No, that sounds good.
Great. Why don't we pick a time and place that we can meet? If you just give me 1 second, I'll take a look at my calendar, and then you can look at your calendar. It looks like I might be able to carve out some time today or tomorrow. Are you available?
I'd be available
at 5 o'clock.
I'd be available tomorrow at 5.
Great. I'm going to save this spot for you at 5 o'clock tomorrow. What that means is I'm going to turn away anyone else that wants that spot. Is there anything you can think of that would prevent you from keeping you from this commitment?
No.
No practices for kids or drop-offs, pickups?
Nope, I'm good.
Great. I'll be dropping off a packet of information for you. Will you take a few minutes to review it before I arrive?
Yes.
Perfect. Tomorrow at 5 p.m.
All right, cool. Hi, Sebastian.
Hi, Lori.
Did you end up without a partner?
Yes.
Okay. Autumn just went through the script, so why don't you go ahead and go through the script with Autumn?
Okay, perfect.
Hi, Sebastian.
Wait, I have a question real quick. Who's gonna say the script, and who's gonna be the buyer?
You say the script, and then
Okay.
Autumn will be the buyer.
Okay, cool. Hi, Autumn. How are you doing?
Great, Sebastian. How are you?
I'm doing great. So our next step would be, after going over the pre-qualifying questions, would be to meet together and do 3 things. We will need to go over your motivation and the price, to interview each other and make sure we are mutually good fit, because sometimes it happens where the client doesn't want to work with me, and I would just want to make sure that you feel comfortable working with me. And if everything looks good, we will sign paperwork and activate the next step. Would you have any questions about that?
No, that sounds great. So, Sebastian, never say that a client doesn't want to work with you. Always say, make sure that just to make sure we're a good fit, period.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're the ones who think about that.
Perfect.
Okay, let's do it again.
Okay. We'll go with it. So perfect. Our next step would be to meet together and do these 3 things, which would be go over your motivation and price, interview each other to make sure we're mutually a good fit, and if everything looks good, we'll sign off on the paperwork and activate the next step. Do you have any questions about the steps I just mentioned?
No, that sounds great.
Okay, perfect. Let me pick a time. Would you be able to hold on for a second so I could go ahead and check my calendar and see what works out?
Yeah. Let me look at my calendar.
Okay. So I have, what's today's date? So I have Friday, August 18th at 2 p.m. or I have Monday. Sorry, what's on Monday? I have Monday at 3 p.m.
Can we
Which one?
do Monday at 3 p.m.? It's better for my schedule.
Okay, that sounds great. That's perfect. So what that means is I'm going to turn away anyone else that wants the spot. So this time will be exclusively for you. Do you think there'd be anything that might be keeping you away from the appointment?
Not that's on my calendar that I can think of right now.
Oh, okay, perfect. So 3 p.m. on Monday, we will make sure to get together. I'll be dropping off a packet of information. Would you be able to take a few minutes to review it before I arrive?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. I'll see you Monday at 3 p.m.
Okay, great, guys.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank
We get back to the
you, Sebastian.
to the group now, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how did that feel for you guys? How did that script feel? Asking for that appointment in that way.
For me, it was perfect.
That's good.
Maybe a little bit awkward.
I didn't like the number 5. Like, I feel like it's basically giving them making them brainstorm about everything that they could come up with as an excuse to not meet. And also, I don't know, I think in my reality that feels a little pushy. Everything else was great though.
Well, and let me say,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you get the gist of where you're supposed to lead the conversation. It could be up to you how you feel comfortable wording it, but you get the gist. You have to, make sure they know what's coming, set the time, make sure you solidify that time and thank them and reiterate the time. So I understand the gist. You can make it your own wording if you're not comfortable with it. I mean, I don't think conversation goes perfect anyways.
So this script came from an inside sales agent who makes phone calls and sets up appointments for agents all day long. And what they found is when they added that step to it, it increased their show up rates. They had people less likely to just ghost you on your appointment. So that might not be the best scenario if we're talking to, SOI or someone like that. But if it's like an internet lead or something like that, that's where that came in, and they have found that part to be very successful. I do understand what you're saying because it does sound a little bit or feel a little bit weird, but I also think the more that you say that, the more it would start to sound natural.
Yeah, you know what though, it's you can, if you even want to reword it, but it's the standard process of first off letting them know that you're busy, you got a full schedule, but you're leaving spots open for them. It's kind of taking it away from them. Like if they don't want to fill that spot, somebody else will. So it's locking them in. It's like, bottom line, look, I'm putting this in my calendar and I respect my calendar, and if you can't make it, let me know now type deal. So
Yeah.
It's
right.
an important process.
I think if someone asked me that, I'd be borderline offended. I feel like
I would agree with that. And I would just say, as a model, I think that it's a little bit like how I might talk to my high school students. Just the phrasing, is there anything that can prevent you from keeping a commitment? It just seems like it does seem a little offensive, to be quite honest.
But I think maybe I get it when you're cold calling and you set appointments and you don't know that person, like then I get that stuff. But yeah, I think for my sphere, it would be a little harsh. But I feel like what I run into a little bit with those is that I feel like sometimes that first, like the buyer, like qualifying part and the setting the appointment or like the appointment, like that does kind of overlap a little bit, like sometimes I do run into that problem when they're like, oh, but can we not just talk about that now real quick or something?
All right. So let me, I see Kyle, you have your hand up. Let me just, because we're at 12:57 and I want to respect your guys' time. So I don't mean to cut this conversation short. But I do want to give you guys the challenge for next week. And so the challenge for next week, you actually have some options. So first of all, not optional is set an appointment. And if you don't have an appointment, then we want you to do the practice appointment again. So buyer or seller, doesn't matter, but do have an appointment. And then we want you to fill out that evaluation form after the appointment. so that, we know how you guys did, and then you guys have the opportunity to reflect back on how the appointment went. We want you to do your DTD4 every week. We want you to do that because that's the systemized way to keep in contact with your SOI. And then we want you to pick one of these 3 options. So option number 1 is to have 2 open houses. And I know sometimes in some of your areas, open houses are hard to get. And if that's the case, then maybe that's not the option you choose. But option 1, 2 open houses. Option 2 is to door knock 100 homes. And you could door knock it around a listing, something that just sold, or an open house. So door knock 100 homes. Or the other option is to ask 50 people for a referral. And so those last 3, you get to choose 2 open houses, door knock 100 homes. Oh, or another option was 100 circle calls. Which again, a circle call would be around an open house, a just listed, or a just sold. Any questions on this week's challenge? All right, then. Go out there. Remember, our goal is to take a listing within the next 6 weeks, or the next 5 weeks now. Doing these activities will increase your chances of that. So if you don't have no questions, then go have a great rest of your day.
Lori, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there a script for circle calling before an open house somewhere?
There probably is. We probably have that script in the PC toolkit. There's a lot of conversations helpers in there. I don't specifically know every script that's in there, but there's probably one. If there's not one in there, they do exist, and so you could, probably find one online.
There's some in Keller Williams Command also.
Yeah, there's a lot of scripts everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.